Hello and welcome back to the Low Bottom High Rise podcast with me, your host, Moira Casaba. We have a major lag on the video, and I don't know if it's because we've had hurricanes in the area. Oh, I don't even know, but we're rolling with it. We can record audio, worst case scenario. But I am so excited to come in here and chat with you about really what is the foundation of my entire life, the way I operate in the world, the way I approach my relationships, the way I approach my marriage, my body, my business, my money. Um, it's really the foundation of how I interact with life and my goals. And some of you guys might be like, whoa, she's going off the deep end. But I've studied, law of attraction and things like that, manifestation for 20 years, ever since I got sober when I was 21. I'm 47 years old. Good gosh, that's a lot of time. So I have multiple PhDs in the subject. And whenever anything gets shaky, that's where I go. It's like some people might be like, oh, what would some of the greats, what would Tony Robbins say about this? Which I love that. What does Brendan Burchard say about this? What is, Ed Milet or Mel Robbins or all these people that are, really well-known thought leaders in our world today. I love having people that I kind of lean into their work when I am struggling. But what I've always leaned into, what I always lean back into is the universal law of attraction manifestation. And the way that I want to explain this today, because you too have probably, this is not your first rodeo with hearing about all this, right? But what I want to try to articulate to you was something I was talking about with my high level mastermind group. They're called the 2% tribe because they literally are the 2%. They're living at a level that, most people just don't live at. They have levels of joy, level of contentment, levels of success and wealth that most people can't find. And so I was talking to them about this, and I can't give away the whole training because they pay top dollar for that, but I want to touch on it tonight. And we're going to start with an acronym that I feel like was divinely given to me, because when I think about the law of attraction and manifestation, and a lot of people roll their eyes and kind of, put a wall up, what I try to explain is like, listen, this is no different than gravity, that we're talking about vibration. We're talking about a frequency that can be scientifically measured. So if we can open our eyes to the fact that you can walk into a room and experience energy, meaning you can walk into a room where two people are in a huge fight, and the second you walk into the room without even looking at their faces, you're like, oh God, you can quote unquote cut the tension with a knife. You feel the negative energy. It's so apparent. And I think we've all experienced that. The other thing is, when we're talking about energy, have you ever pulled up to a stoplight or been somewhere in a crowded room and all of a sudden you just know somebody's looking at you? They could be behind you and you feel them looking at you, and you turn around and all of a sudden you lock eyes, right? Because you felt the energy. That's what you're feeling. So energy is very palpable. Some of us can feel it better than others. I've been very tuned in, tapped in since I was a child. And I think I, like every person in this world, kind of got away from that connection as societal norms kind of, just seeped into my life. And I've gotten back to that ever since the day I got sober. So here's the thing. I think about vibration a lot. I think about my emotional state, no matter where I am, we can go down the rabbit hole of law of attraction and manifestation, but what it boils down to is it's talking about where are you emotionally, right? We can only attract in this present moment, like right here, right now. That is the only point of attraction that you have. And so how do you attract something? It's based 100% on your emotional state, which is emanating a vibration, a frequency, right? And so if I am incredibly grateful, I feel this all the time in church when I'm like in the middle of worship music and prayer, and it's like a next level, just it's coming out of my ears and my pores, like gratitude, and tears are rolling down my cheeks. I'm just so freaking in awe, and I'm so grateful, and like that is a palpable emotional state, aka vibration frequency, right? That could be measured, absolutely. And so in those moments we can attract. It's like, and I want to, I hope I can paint this picture. I'm literally going to have my graphics girl design this for me, because I am a very visual learner, and I things kind of come to me in my head. And again, I do think they are divinely given to me to give to you guys. But imagine, I always picture this vibrational emotional ladder, right? So at the bottom, you've got depression and fear and anxiety and hate and rage and all of these deep, dark emotions. And as you start to crawl up the ladder, you start to get to like indifference, irritation, somewhere in the middle is kind of like, well, I'm kind of content, I guess, that would kind of be more of a neutral place in the ladder. You start to climb up the ladder a little bit more and you're like, maybe I'm getting a little hopeful, maybe I'm getting excited. And you start to go further up the ladder and you're like, actually, I feel hope. I feel, at the top, I feel that gratitude, I feel that joy, I feel that awe. And this is what I'm trying to explain, that it's in those moments at the top of that ladder that the magic happens, right? We've all had this experience where, I can remember, I always think back about this. I was trying to write one of my first keynote speeches for months and months and weeks and hours and hours. And I sat down at the desk and I worked so hard, and I just couldn't, I couldn't for the life of me, like, nail it. And it was a huge monkey in my back. It was stressing me out. And one time I was driving back from Charlotte. It was nighttime. I had been shopping. The music was blaring. I want to say it was like a weekend. So no part of my mind was thinking about the speech. Like, that was not even in my atmosphere of thoughts, right? I'm just jamming out, like high vibing, listen to this music. And all of a sudden it was almost like alarming enough as if you saw like a wreck on the road, but it wasn't tragic. It was awesome. What happened was, all of a sudden this download of thoughts comes into my brain out of nowhere. And I'm like, turn the radio down really quick. I pick up my cell phone and I voice text, or I voice record the speech that just like dropped in out of nowhere. And I word vomit this recording into my phone for like 3 minutes, and the speech is done. The speech is done, but it's not just done. It is out of the freaking park. Amazing, going to impact lives, exactly what that audience needs to hear. Magic, 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 magic. Like, this is what I'm going to say in the beginning. Then I'm going to teach them this. This is what I'm going to say. Then I'm going to share this story. Then this is the cherry on top. And this is how I'm going to, the whole thing. Because that's what happens when you're at the top of the ladder, right? And so I want to touch on, again, I'm not going to deep dive, because this podcast isn't going to be 2 hours, 3 hours long, but I want to teach this framework of like, well, how the heck do we get there? I was randomly there that night when I was just like living my best life, shopping, driving, alone in the car without babies or toddlers. And we've all been there at those times where we just find ourselves, despite outside life conditions. Like, that's really key, right? It's like we need to learn how to tune into the right vibrational emotional place despite outside conditions. And I can tell you for a fact that my life has been insanely amazing on the outside. Everything is going right. It's literally the dream life. Like, we're talking, top of my company, millions of dollars, best friends in the world, traveling all over the world, on, private planes, all the things. And I have been at the bottom of the ladder. And I can also remember times where I was struggling, where I couldn't find a job, where I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I didn't know where I was going to live. And I was at the top. So our emotional state, and this is like, I'm kind of taking 5 steps back, because we have to have some concept of the understanding that our emotional state cannot, which is probably 98% of the world, it just can't, if we're going to live in the 2%, it can't be tied to outside circumstances. Otherwise, we have no control, right? Otherwise, we are just letting the world dictate our state of being at all times. And we have to take control of that. So what I want to go back to is, vibe, V-I-B-E, because again, total divine download. This came to me kind of piece by piece overnight. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is literally my work of the last 10 to 12 years encapsulated. It's every single thing that I teach. And this vibe, right? Like kept coming to me as like literally my new brand. And I wasn't thinking about those letters meaning anything. It was just like it's really about living a high vibe life. And you can talk about that in regards to, a high vibe body, a high vibe mind, and a high vibe spirit, because we can't talk about one without talking about the other. Like if we're talking about a high vibe life, we're talking body, mind, and spirit, right? And so we have to kind of come up with this framework for our body, for our brain, and for our spiritual life. And so again, we don't have 3 days, but let me break this down for you. So vibe, the V is vision or visualization or both, right? This is at the center and the foundation of the work that I've taught for 10 years. It's why I was able to create the #1 team in a network of hundreds of thousands. I was really good at teaching people how to cultivate a vision, how to cast a vision, how to write down a vision, and one that they were extremely attached to and fired up, and then teaching the daily practice of either reading and or visualizing, actually visualizing that dream come to life, right? Because our brain doesn't know the difference between reality and something that we are, just saying to it, right? It does not know the difference between your imagination and the reality of the world around you. And so it responds if you are thinking of like, hey, I'm a $1 million earner. If you're saying that and you're visualizing that, your brain is responding as if that is your reality, right? So every day we have to do the pre-work to craft the vision, to get really crystal clear on our goals. And it's crazy to say this, but it's so true. Most people don't get what they want in life because they don't know what they're going for. They don't know what they want. They don't have a target. They don't have a goal. They don't have crystal clear clarity on this, blinders on, this is where I'm going, right? Most people are just kind of aimlessly living in the gray area of like, I think this is generally where I want to go in my life. And you don't get that far without the clarity that I'm telling you to create, right? So you create that vision and that goal setting map, and then you devote the daily practice to it. One does not work without the other, right? You certainly can't do the daily practice if you don't have the vision. But doing a vision board on January 1st, sticking it on a shelf, isn't going to get you very far. You have to start to condition your mind and rewire your brain and program your subconscious to live into that reality, for it to actually be your reality in this moment, your point of attraction. So that's the V. The I is investigate, or you could say inquire, right? Again, this is literally the book of proof that I wrote a couple years ago. In order to, and we're kind of going into more of the brain in this kind of pillar, we have to rewire our brain, right? We have been conditioned by society, we have conditioned ourselves to just almost be robotic in how we respond to the world, right? Our buttons get pushed, politics this, we respond. We respond automatically without conscious thought, literally without conscious thought. We wake up in the morning, we get out of bed the same, we brush our teeth the same, we walk into the closet, we eat the same breakfast, we get into the car the same, we drive to work the same. Like we're literally living half asleep. So we have to realize that that's the same thing that's happening with our belief systems, with our perceptions, with the way that we interact with the world. And so we have to start to ask ourselves better questions, right? We've probably all heard, when you ask yourself better questions, you get better answers. And so when we are dealing with insecurity or a lack of confidence, we need to start to tip the scales over, because our brain has this thing called confirmation bias, right? And if we think, "Ah, I just don't know if I can do that," or I don't really believe in myself, or I'm just not, I'm not that, let's go back to like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it, right? I don't think I'm going to be able to accomplish the goal. Well, your brain's going to go, okay, awesome. I'm going to go look for information and facts and instances and all the examples to back that up because my job is to make you right. Right. So then you go onto social media and you're like, yep, she's doing it better than I am. Yep, I can't do it like her. I don't have that following. I don't know how to record content like that. I don't have that confidence. I don't have that personality. I don't have that body, all the things. And you confirm to yourself why you're not going to be able to hit the goal. Instead, we actually have to intentionally override it. So every single morning in the book of proof, you are asking yourself, you know what? Instead of looking for all those negatives, how about where's life showing up for you? How does the universe have your back? How actually are you possibly going to be the one that breaks all the freaking barriers and makes it to the top, right? Like, let's start to look for evidence to back up the dream instead of evidence that backs up the fear. And you start to write those things down every freaking morning. And every week, you've got literally 35 proofs, pieces of evidence that back up why you're winning. You start to reprogram and rewire literally your brain. And so you start to become a different person, right? So we have to investigate these things. And we're going to kind of just bridge this right over because, again, I can't give you all of the information here, but I'm going to bridge it over to the B, which is belief. It dawned on me a long time ago that when I was looking at my own success and I thought, how in the hell have I done this? How have I built a multi-million-dollar coaching business that has all of the, how did I become an author? How did I become a speaker? How did I become a top 1% podcaster? I'm not saying that to blow up my own ego. I'm saying that because I'm like, I literally am like, me? Like, how in the heck did that happen? And how have I been able to teach so many other women to do the same? And it's because I teach belief. I get people to believe in themselves. I don't teach belief per se. I rewire belief for people, right? I have an uncanny ability, a superpower in teaching you how to believe in yourself. And so much of it is this morning process of investigate, right? And you're inquiring where that proof is. But when we're looking at beliefs, it is your self-limiting beliefs that will hold you back from everything. Self-limiting, that means you are the one holding yourself back, right? You are the one, I hate to break it to you, but you are the one that is holding you back from everything that you want. Isn't that crazy? But it's true. And the good news is if you're the one holding yourself back, we can change that without any outside help. We just have to do the work, right? And so I go into this deep process called the belief blueprint on how to disassemble. Well, first of all, we have to find, right? Let's find the limiting beliefs. And there's a process, there's a step-by-step process to disassemble the old belief. And then we find the new belief, which is usually just the exact opposite, right? And then we go through the process of building that belief and finding, I always say that like a belief is like a tabletop. And we find the table legs, and we don't just find 4 table legs, we find like 20 table legs. So that belief is rock freaking solid. And from that point forward, game on, like in the best of ways, right? Nothing can stop you. You have a vision, you have goals, you have built belief, you have rewired your brain. And now the only thing that's left is the E, which, can you guess what that is? We have to execute, right? We have to take massive freaking action. And this is where I probably will rub up against all the law of attraction, manifestation teachers out there that say you can just, hold a high vibration and manifest the Mercedes or the jet into your life. You can't. I'm sorry, you can't. I firmly disagree that you have to get into aligned action, right? And then the universe comes into co-creation with you right alongside you and makes it 10,000 times easier, right? So with those things, then stepping into massive action and things like when we're talking about action, I'm also talking about the side of things where it's like you've got to plan out your day. It doesn't sound sexy, but I like love, somebody just said this on a call the other day. They were like, hey, can you talk about time blocking? And somebody else was like, yeah, it's your love language. I'm like, that is so pathetic. That time blocking is kind of one of my love languages because it allows me to own my time. It allows me to be in the driver's seat. It allows me to not be controlled by outside circumstances. It allows me to work in conjunction with God, with the universe, with this incredible world that we live in, and co-create the life I want and go after my goals. Right? You're not going to accomplish anything by sitting in your living room meditating for 10 hours a day. I love meditation. It's a piece of this, but it's not all of it, right? So vision, visualization, that's the V. Investigate, inquire, that's the I. Change and build new beliefs, that's the B. There's a whole blueprint belief system there, or I'm sorry, the blueprint, the belief blueprint. I can't even say it right. I'm getting so excited. And then execute, take the action. And when you do that, you will be at a higher vibration. That will be your point of attraction. And that's when everything changes in your life. And this is part of going back to, remember I said I would love my graphics girl. I'm going to have my graphics girl build this out. So I gave you the piece of the ladder, right? The vibrational ladder that is kind of these emotions that as you go up the ladder, they get bigger and brighter and better. I want you to picture at the bottom of that ladder that there's a building right next door to it, like a brick building. And when you are in fear and depression and rage, you kind of look out from that ladder, you turn your head around, looking for answers, desperate, rock bottom, right? You can't see anything except a brick wall. Like that is all you can see. We have all been there. God knows I have been there more times than I want. Desperate for a way out, desperate for a way out of addiction, out of bulimia, out of whatever, you name it, I've had it, out of just, complete devastation in my life of loss. And you can't see the answers because it's not available to you at the bottom of the ladder. But as you start to crawl up that ladder, all of a sudden when you get to that neutral place of like, kind of might be a little complacent, might be a little like bored, just these kind of neutral-ish feelings, you start to be able to peek up over that building and you start to see that there's something else out there. Maybe there's a different way. Maybe there's a different path for you. Maybe there's a different calling for you. Maybe there's different people out there that you're supposed to be in relationship with. We start to crawl higher and we start to crawl higher. And then all of a sudden we get to the top of that ladder and we start to live up there. And it's literally like you're on the top of a mountain. And you can see a perspective that you could never see before. You can see way out over the valley and over the next hill and over the next mountain and over the next town that there's people right there that you're supposed to connect with. And they're coming towards you, right? You can see the new calling on your life. You can see the new job opportunity. You can see all of the magic that has been there the whole time, but it couldn't see you and you couldn't see it. And when you align with that, the magic happens. The life you want happens, the success, the finances, the relationship, the healthy body, the enjoyment of your children, everything. It all happens like just like it's coming out of your ears, right? That's the vibration. That's what we get when we live a high vibe life, body, mind, and spirit. So that's what I wanted to land on you today and just give you that gift. Again, I couldn't give it all to you because every single one of those words is probably, a 3-hour training. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know where you get stuck. Let me know what part of that might trip you up. And let me know what you think, because I would love some feedback on this framework. Thanks you guys so much for listening. Share this episode with your friends. Tag me if you will, and I will see you next week.